Thana Niveau's 257. 257. Do you hear that? Listen. 916. That's the girl who lives inside the radio. And that's all she says. Just numbers. Sometimes she sings too. I once had a sweet little doll, the prettiest doll ever known. The radio belongs to my grandpa. He calls it the wireless, which doesn't make sense because it has a long cord that plugs into the wall. Even though he has a TV, he still likes to listen to the radio at night. It's a huge wooden one like they have in old movies, and it takes up a whole corner of the living room. It's shiny red-brown, and it reminds me of a big beetle. The dials look like spinning eyes, which is kind of creepy, and you turn them to find stations to listen to. You can even hear stations from countries on the other side of the world. When I first heard the girl, I thought Grandpa had left the radio on. We're spending the summer with him in his cottage by the lake. My parents and me. The lake is beautiful, with trees all around and lots of animals. Sometimes deer come out of the woods to nibble the treats I leave for them. One time a deer even went out a little way onto the dock, and my dad took a picture of it standing there, looking down at Grandpa's little boat like it was going to go for a ride. The cottage is nice, but it's really small for a house. I don't have a bedroom, but that's okay because I get to sleep on the couch in the living room, which is kind of like a sleepover, only by myself. The very first time I slept here, I thought it was scary, but now I love it. Everything looks different at night, in the dark. The furniture comes alive, stretching long, spiky shadows out across the floor like the clawing hands of monsters. Sometimes I think I see them move. When I get scared, I hide in the castle, which is the piano in the daytime, or I crawl inside my secret cave, which is really just a couch. I put a blanket over the top and tuck it into the cushions to make a tunnel, and I like to sleep all the way inside at one end, like I'm deep inside a rabbit hole. Sometimes Goldie comes in with me. She's Grandpa's golden retriever. She's the other reason it's not scary down here. She'd never let any monsters get me. One night I heard a voice. I knew it wasn't my mom or dad, and it definitely wasn't Grandpa. It scared me because I thought there was someone in the house, someone who shouldn't be there. I froze like ice, listening as hard as I could, so hard my ears hurt. Then the voice came again. It sounded really far away, and all it said was a number, then another. Then there was some scratchy high sounds too, and I realized the voice was coming from the radio. But it wasn't music or the news. It was the voice of a little girl like me. I crawled to the end of the tunnel and peeked out. It was quiet, and Goldie was fast asleep by the window. She'd definitely have barked if someone was in the house. I stared at the radio for a long time, but the girl didn't say anything else. After a while, I got tired of listening to nothing, and I fell asleep. I forgot all about her until she woke me up the next night. That time she said her name. Annie. She sang her sad little song, and then it was more numbers. Hello? I tiptoed over to the radio. In the moonlight, it looked like a big shining face staring down at me. From the window, Goldie looked up, probably wondering who I was talking to. I can hear you, Annie, I told her. Can you hear me? 257. What does that mean? I asked. It wasn't our address or phone number or any other number that I recognized. Cold. It sounded like she was crying. My heart was beating really hard, and I started to get worried. Where are you? I asked. Are you in the radio? She sang a little more of her song. But I lost my poor little doll, and then I was all alone. I was starting to think she couldn't hear me at all, and that made me want to cry too. I could picture her, a tiny little girl trapped inside that big, scary box, trying to get out. I reached up to turn one of the dials. There was a squeal, and then static, and then Annie was silent. I turned the dial the other way and found her again, but only for a few seconds. The needle was pointing between lists of places like Japan and Paris and Budapest. I wondered if the numbers on the dial were the ones she was talking about. Annie, are you there? But she wasn't, and I didn't hear her again that night. The next morning I wondered if I should tell my parents what I had heard. I didn't really want to because they would just say it was my imagination. They were always saying that. But I did ask Grandpa if he ever heard voices coming from the radio. Of course. That's what radios do, Heather. No, I mean, what if you heard someone who was inside the radio? He gave me a funny look. Then he turned and stared over at the radio. What are you hearing in there? He asked after a while, frowning like he thought I was crazy. I didn't know if Annie would want me to tell anyone about her. After all, she had only talked to me. I felt like she was my secret friend, so I thought really hard about what to say. Oh, just some numbers. Grandpa smiled at that. Ah, you've found a numbers station. What's a numbers station? Well, it's a mystery. Lots of people listen to them, but no one really knows what they are. Voices reciting strings of numbers, sometimes words, sometimes in other languages. It all sounds like nonsense, but some people claim they're coded messages for spies. Top secret stuff. And of course, other people think all kinds of crazy things, like they're alien transmissions, messages from outer space. I looked at the radio confused. I wanted to ask why a spy or an alien would sound like a little girl, but I felt protective of Annie. If she really was hiding in there, I didn't want to give her away. What about songs? I asked carefully. Yes, some of them also play a song or a bit of music in between strings of numbers. It's how the spies know where the message begins. I thought about that word, message. What was Annie trying to tell me? I could see Grandpa was waiting for me to say something, so I made myself smile. It's probably aliens, I said. I'll tell them not to land on the dock if they invade. Good girl, he said. He ruffled my hair and told me to run along and play. I did, but I had the weirdest feeling that he was bothered by what I'd said about the voice. Something inside me said he'd heard it too. That night, Annie came again. Grandpa had put the idea of spies in my head, so this time I was ready, and I wrote the numbers down as she said them. It was a long list, and she repeated it 3 times. In between, she sang, and after a while, her voice sounded closer, louder, as if she was getting stronger. I sat cross-legged on the floor, looking up at the radio while she started all over again. 2, 5, 7. I looked down at what I had written. 2, 5, 7, 9, 1, 6, 2, 0, 1, 3. 2013 was in there like a clue hidden in a word search puzzle. 2 years ago. So it was a date. There were 6 numbers before it, and that was too long to be a month and a date. I squinted at the page, trying to see whatever I was missing. What does it mean, Annie? Is it a code? She was humming, about to start over with the numbers. Then she was quiet for a few seconds. I thought she'd gone away, but then she whispered another word. It sounded like it took a lot of effort. Night time. That didn't mean anything to me. I knew one code where you changed all the letters into numbers, and so I wrote out the alphabet and did that. But it didn't even make a word, at least not one I knew. I felt so stupid, like the answer was right there in front of me, and I just couldn't see it. My head was starting to hurt, and I must have made a noise because Goldie came over and licked me as if to say it was okay. She didn't mind if I was stupid. Dogs are great that way. I curled up with her inside my tunnel, and as I drifted off to sleep, I heard Annie starting the numbers again. Nighttime, I thought. 257. I woke up to the sound of raised voices in the kitchen. Grandpa was shouting about his watch. I've had the bloody thing for 20 years, he said, giving the table an angry thump. It's never just stopped before. Did you forget to wind it? My dad asked, sounding like he already knew the answer. I never forget to wind it, Grandpa snapped. He got annoyed when he thought anyone was saying he was too old to remember things. Look, I'm winding it now. Nothing. Maybe it's just a sign that it's time to get a new watch, my dad offered. But Grandpa didn't want to hear it. There's nothing wrong with this watch, he said it in a tone that meant there was no more discussion. I couldn't understand what the big deal was, but I didn't want them to fight. I got up and crept into the kitchen. I knew once they saw me, they'd lower their voices. Sorry, sweetie, said my dad. Did we wake you up? Uh-huh. The watch was lying on the table, and for a moment I imagined picking it up and wishing really hard and making it work again. I could almost hear the ticking in my head. I'm sorry it's broken, I said. I wish I could fix it. I looked down at the face of the watch, and my breath caught in my throat when I saw the time it had stopped at. 2:57. 257. My heart gave a leap inside my chest. Annie had sent me a message. It was all I could do not to run back into the living room for the paper I'd written her numbers on. No worries, kiddo, said my dad. It's not your fault. Grandpa didn't say anything. He was glaring out the window as if something out there had broken his watch. My dad turned back to him and said they could go into town to get it fixed once my mom was awake. And while they were talking, I slipped away. I grabbed my paper and looked at the numbers again. 2:57 was the time. Night time. 2:57 in the morning. 2013 was the year, which left 916. My heart was pounding. Since there wasn't no 91st or 16th month, the date could only be September the 16th. I wasn't stupid after all. So what had happened on that day? It was summer and wonderfully warm, but I suddenly felt a chill go up my back, as though a spider had dropped inside my shirt and was creeping towards my neck. I knew what was important about the date. I turned slowly to look at the radio. Its dials seemed more than ever like watchful eyes. That's when you died, I whispered, isn't it? She didn't answer, but a burst of static came from the speaker. It sounded like someone sniffing back tears. I felt helpless. Why had she talked to me? What did she want me to do? What could I do? I knew you could look at old newspapers in the library and find stuff out that way because I'd seen people do it in the movies. But maybe I could also find it on the internet. I wasn't supposed to go online by myself, but since no one was watching, I tiptoed into the little office and typed the date and the name Annie into Grandpa's computer. I found what I was looking for right away. A local headline: Annabelle Stevens missing since 16th September 2013. My heart sank. Missing. No one knew she was dead. No one but me. I remember the time my cat Frodo ran away, and I put signs all over the neighborhood. I went to every house asking if anyone had seen him. But after 2 weeks, my parents said he wasn't coming back. They tried to tell me someone might have adopted him, not knowing he had already had a home. But I knew that just didn't want me to know he was dead. We lived near a busy road, and Frodo was always out wandering. I pretended to believe them, though I wanted to think he was still alive somewhere. Did Annie's parents think the same thing? That someone had taken her away to live with them? But I lost my poor little doll. I felt cold all over. I turned the computer off and went back into the living room. The radio seemed to be watching me. That night her voice was a little louder. I felt like I'd made her stronger by finding out who she was and what the numbers meant. She was singing, I found my poor little doll. A burst of static came, and then she finished the line. As I swam in the lake one day. Did you lose your doll in the lake? I asked. Maybe I could find it for you. There was some more noise from the radio, and at first I thought she'd gone away. Annie, are you still there? But now she is horribly changed. Something fluttered in the pit of my stomach. I was sad for Annie, but also afraid. I had a weird feeling that the song was more than just a song. She sounded like she was crying as she sang the last lines. Her beauty is all washed away. I felt cold as I listened. Her voice sounded so close, like she was right in the room with me, and just like I wondered if she was. The radio was very big, easily big enough for a little girl to hide inside. What if she wasn't dead at all, but just hiding? What if she'd got trapped inside and couldn't get out? Even as I thought it, I knew it couldn't be true. Wishful thinking, my mom would have said. There was no way she could live inside the radio for that long. But I had to make sure. I crawled behind the radio and knocked softly on the back panel. Annie, are you in there? I felt a little silly, but there was no one there to see me but Goldie. She didn't answer, but I thought I could hear something through the fuzzy static. I knew what I had to do. There's a toolbox under the kitchen sink, and I found the screwdriver with the flathead. 4 screws held the panel on, and I carefully undid each one. My heart was pounding. I didn't know what to expect. I slid the panel off, and I almost dropped it in surprise. There was something in there. I was afraid to reach inside until I realized what it was. The radio made a soft humming sound as I took the doll out and looked at it. I never really liked dolls. I liked dinosaurs better, but I could see that this one was very pretty. Like Annie had said in her song, her face was painted china and she was smiling, with red lips and bright blue eyes. She was a little dusty, but that was all. Her long blue dress wasn't torn and her face wasn't chipped or cracked at all. I was confused. What did Annie mean about her being horribly changed? Very carefully, I replaced the panel and put the screwdriver away. I was very careful and very quiet so no one would be able to tell what I'd done. I found her, Annie, I said to the radio. She's safe. But I could tell that Annie wasn't happy. The radio continued to buzz, and then Annie started whispering the numbers and the words to her song. Her voice was different now. It scared me. She sounded desperate and afraid. I looked at the doll, not understanding. Was she talking about a different doll? Tears came to my eyes, and I backed away, feeling helpless. But I found her, was all I could think of to say. After a while, Annie's voice faded out and the radio was silent. Whatever it was, I had failed. I wrapped my arms around the doll and cried myself to sleep. I was still curled up inside my tunnel when my mom came to wake me up. Where did this come from? She asked, sounding surprised. For a moment, I didn't know what she was talking about. My eyes were puffy from crying, and I scrubbed at them with my fingers. Then I remembered the doll. I couldn't tell anyone my secret, so I said the first thing that came into my mind. Goldie found her, I said. Really? I'm surprised she didn't damage it. She's really gentle." My mom turned the doll over in her hands, admiring the dress. I thought you didn't like dolls, she said. I don't really, but it was a present from Goldie. I was surprised at how easily the lies came. But then Grandpa and my dad had come in. My mom held the doll up to show them. Look what Goldie turned up, she said. Isn't she beautiful? Oh, yes, very pretty, my dad said. But Grandpa's eyes went wide. Where did you get that? He demanded. My mom rolled her eyes. Don't freak out, Dad, she said. The dog brought it in. Good thing it was a toy and not a dead bird. But Grandpa looked horrified. He stared at the doll, refusing to go near it. He looked like he was trying to think of something to say. You can't keep it, he said at last. It probably belongs to someone. She does look expensive, my mom said. My dad nodded. I suppose we could put a note up in town, maybe with a picture, see if anyone claims it. Grandpa didn't seem to like that idea either. No, no, he snapped. I'm sure it's not worth the trouble. He looked really uncomfortable with the whole situation, but he only glared at the doll and then stomped off into his office. Oh dear, my mom said. He's just having one of his funny turns. Don't pay him any mind, Heather. You keep the doll if you want her. I didn't want her, not really, but I didn't know what else to do. I couldn't understand why Grandpa had looked so scared, almost like he'd recognized the doll. Something in me went cold. I heard Annie whispering in my head, and her beauty is all washed away. It's almost midnight. Annie's here, but I can barely hear her. She sounds very far away. Maybe she's mad at me because I didn't do things right. I'm sorry, I tell her. I really tried. Who are you talking to? The voice makes me jump and I spin around, dropping the doll. It's only Grandpa. He's standing in the doorway. I have the feeling he's been watching me for a while. No one, I say, just the radio. The number station you told me about. He looks at the radio and his eyes narrow. It's the way you might look at a dangerous animal. And what numbers are you listening to? His voice sounded funny, very low and serious. I'm afraid without knowing why. I shrug. Just numbers." He nods. Numbers like the ones you look up on my computer? Names, too, by any chance? My skin suddenly feels ice cold. I don't know what to say. Grandpa sighs and looks down at the doll. He picks her up and smooths down her dress, strokes her hair. She was so pretty, he says, his voice sad. His eyes shone with tears. Who was? I manage to ask. He looks up and smiles. It's a cold and ugly smile. Why, your little friend, Annie. He takes a step towards me, and without thinking, I move back. I once had a sweet little doll, the prettiest doll ever known. His voice sounds all wrong. Static comes from the radio, and without warning, he smashes the doll against it. Her china head shatters against the cabinet, and I cry out, "I want my parents!" I whisper. "They're asleep," he says, "like you should have been, instead of listening to crazy voices and poking your nose in where it doesn't belong." I try to call out, but my throat feels like it's full of dust. Nothing comes out but a squeak. I suddenly wonder where Goldie is. Grandpa laughs, a low, unpleasant sound. "Even if you scream, they won't hear you. I made sure of that." I start to cry, and his face softens a little. "Oh, don't cry, sweetie," he says. "I want to show you something. Have you ever seen the water babies in the lake?" I shake my head, terrified. I want to run, but there's nowhere to go. "I showed them to Annie one night. She used to come skipping through the woods, not a care in the world. She was my own sweet little doll." From the radio comes Annie's voice, very sad. "But now she's horribly changed." Tears stream down my face, and through the blur I see Grandpa smile. "That's right, Annie. Your beauty is all washed away." I struggle as he takes my hand, but he's so much bigger and stronger than me. I can hear Goldie now, barking from behind the closed door of the kitchen. She knows something is wrong. Very wrong. "Come on now," he says. "Don't you want to see the water babies? I'm sure Annie will introduce you to them." Goldie scrabbles frantically at the door, but I know she can't break it down. I also know that I can't get away. And as Grandpa takes me to the lake, I can't help but wonder how many other little girls have disappeared over the years, and if we'll ever be found. It's quiet now, quiet and cold. I can sense Annie somewhere near. I wonder if anyone will hear me through the radio. If lots of people are listening to number stations, they might hear me. They might find out who I am and where I got lost. It's very hard to talk, but I say what I can. 11, 4, 6, 2, 10, 2, 0, 1, 5. The veil has lifted, if only for a moment. If you felt the chill of the unknown, the whisper of something ancient in the dark, then you've walked with us into the strange. Until next time, keep your lantern lit and your mind opened. The weird is never far.